is the Talk of Muskegon.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you
Good morning, Muskegon. This is EyeOnMuskegon, and I'm Jim Riley here in Muskegon's Clear Channel studios with my friend and engineer, the legendary Oscar Osbo. And we welcome all of you in radio, computer, smartphone, and podcast land to Eye on Muskegon. We are Muskegon's only political talk radio show, and I guess, Oscar, that continues to make us number one in our market.
Number one.
So let's get the banners out and the billboards. We'll have to talk to the Clear Channel folks, and I'm sure that maybe a blimp would be kind of cool floating around Muskegon.
Yeah.
As I always say, we are a show that wants to put you on the radio. So give us a call. You don't really get an opportunity to be heard by the millions that follow this show intercontinentally. And the number here is 231-830-3109. And as I have said, and perhaps ad nauseum, but I really want to keep pounding this into folks, because most of us here in Michigan do spend more on state and local taxes than we do on federal taxes. And even though we tend to focus on the big picture out there, which is very, very important with the president, the Senate, and the House, and all those guys out there spending us into bankruptcy. There's a whole bunch of other folks, nice folks. Many of them are neighbors who are involved in that same kind of spending, and it certainly affects us much more so than the big picture out there in Washington, D.C. So that's what this show is really about. We're focusing on state and local issues. And, of course, some of those issues, as I have also said, include these water bills that are going up tremendously, the sewer bills, the electric bills, natural gas, trash pickup, and on and on and on. But today, it's November 13th, and as promised, today we're going to be talking about this past week's election and how that may change things here in Muskegon County. But before we get into that, just a couple local things. Oscar and I were talking beforehand. Many of you either saw on TV or maybe saw replays of it later on TV. But that Michigan State, North Carolina basketball game on Thursday night?
Well, yeah.
Friday night. It was on Friday night.
Yeah.
It was such a, to me, as a Michigan State fan, but to see America, two wonderful basketball teams, two tremendous coaches, coaching staffs, the team, the young men that were on the teams, and all those armed services folks, the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, on an aircraft carrier. And I put on my blog, EyeOnMuskegon.com, a video that someone, the Navy perhaps, put together, which showed a time-lapse photography of them building that basketball stadium on the deck. And I'd recommend that you go take a look at it. The link is there, or you can probably Google it. But it was really, really cool. And as some may know, I'm not a huge fan of the President Obama. But to see him and his wife walking on the deck and essentially opening up the show it just gave me chills. And then I was just surprised at how I'm smiling now and how I was smiling then. And I think if you contrast that experience, which really is representative of what our country is all about, you contrast that with the tragedy at Penn State University. I think it's, number one, it should show that at Penn State is an aberration. But I feel not good that it happened, but I certainly feel good that, number one, it came out, and number two, that there seems to be general condemnation, not just of the monster who was involved in the acts, but all of the enablers, including, sadly, the head coach, Joe Paterno.
But you say sadly, I kind of don't see it as sadly.
Well, I'm sorry, sadly that he was involved, not sadly not sadly that he was outed. No, not at all. Yeah, that good point. I am not in any way defending Paterno or anyone else. And I've always felt that child perversion of that sort is really little different, at least in my mind, than murder. And you can imagine if that assistant coach had seen someone murdered or had reported to a variety of people that someone was murdered, and people had just said, well, this would be bad for the program. Let's not only cover it up, but let's keep the murderer hanging around. And he was certainly welcome on a variety of venues.
You kind of like to hear his side of the case too, because did he report it continuously and they did nothing about it, or did he just say it casually? And
Great point. Yeah, we don't know enough. Yeah, it's funny. That's an excellent point. We don't know yet the real facts, but few people are at least disputing the major points. And
right.
and it did occur to me last night. I was reading a novel on my Kindle, but wouldn't it be incredible? Because
he's got a Kindle.
I got it just a little bit when they dropped the prices. I got a Kindle, and I must say I love it. But I got thinking in the back of my mind. Remember the Duke? It wasn't rugby. It was the lacrosse team that was accused of having gang raping
right.
a young woman, and the national and even to a certain extent international condemnation of that team, and it was universal. There was very few people out there, with the exception of their lawyers, saying this didn't happen in the way it was presented, and. On one hand, it would be very good if it turns out this scandal really wasn't quite what we think. On the other hand, it would be a horrible tragedy, as you just said,
right.
if we find out points that change our minds long after the reputations have been destroyed.
Because exactly, because they're already been destroyed. That's the thing about the news media, is that once you destroy a reputation, they can't get it back, no matter what the courts say.
That's right. And
Michael Jackson. Hey, there you go. There's a case in point.
Actually, death does help a reputation.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
So, but believe it or not, we can tie this in a little bit. I saw a quote, which was in the context of the Duke, or of the Penn State perversion, from Einstein, Albert Einstein, and the quote is: "The world is a dangerous place to live, not because of the people who are evil, but because of the people who don't do anything about it."
Right.
And obviously, that certainly pertains to the Penn State situation, but it really does pertain to those of us who are adults in Muskegon County. We love our community. We want our schools to educate, and we want our government officials, be they police or their public works or whatever, to do their jobs. We want them to do it efficiently. But in many cases, and I think this most recent election is a perfect example, we are not doing anything about it. The percentages of people who vote, the percentages of people who really take the time to educate themselves about the issues and about the people who are running. So that's what we're going to get to. And I'm going to start off with the international news, but it does come down to us. And you may have heard the term the PIGS, and that's an acronym, PIIGS. This acronym was put together a good 3 to 5 and perhaps even longer years ago. It means Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Greece, and Spain. And the PIGS were considered to be the countries in Europe who were most at risk to default. So now that we're reading about Spain and Greece and Italy, and I'm sure we're going to be hearing about others as time goes on, not very far down the road. But we have been warned, but nobody bothered to listen.
Right.
The information was out. The media, the major media, essentially kept it from the public. And I don't think it's any real different than the captain of the Titanic, who was warned about icebergs ahead and essentially said, well, no big deal. I've got other things that are more important. Well, we have been warned. And just this last few weeks now, for the first time, at least in modern American history, we now have our own version of the PIGS. And this is the beginning of smallpox. It's the beginning of some horrible disease, and we better appreciate it. The state of Rhode Island is bordering on bankruptcy. They don't have enough money to send checks to their retirees and to pay the normal bills of running the state. The capital of Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, this is the capital of Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, has just declared bankruptcy. And the Jefferson County, Alabama, which is the county where the state capital is in Alabama, just declared bankruptcy. All of this happened within the last few weeks.
Right.
Now, what's going to happen there? Well, we're going to find out. We know that California was in terrible trouble and was essentially bailed out by the federal government. There are icebergs ahead. They are thankfully hitting other communities that are not right here in Muskegon.
Right.
But they are hitting them, as we well know, in Detroit and in Flint and in Benton Harbor. And if we're going to, as Albert Einstein said, the world is a dangerous place, or maybe a frightening place, but not because of the bad things that are happening, because you and I both know bad things happen, but because of the people who don't do anything about it. We have a responsibility as Americans, we have a responsibility as citizens who live in our wonderful county to educate ourselves and to get involved. So let's take a look at just the results of this last week's the national elections. There were really only two that were of tremendous interest to most people. The first one was in Ohio, which was huge. The Republican-led Ohio had put in place rules that would have restricted some of the control, some of the power that the public employee unions have to force increases, paid days off, Cadillac pensions, similar to what we have in Muskegon, by the way, which include lifetime health care, lifetime vision, lifetime dental, things of that sort.
I wish.
That was passed by the governor, or signed by the governor, passed by the House and the Senate in Ohio. And they had another vote on it by the people, and they overturned it overwhelmingly, almost 2-1. That's going to have repercussions to Ohio. Well, that's their problem as far as I'm concerned. Matter of fact, well, it's truly, if Ohio turns out to be a terrible place to do business, that may make it easier for Michigan to do better. But the real repercussion there is the power of the public service unions. Now, it may be, as I've heard, that this particular referendum was poorly, or was not the referendum, but the bill was too broad. It included firemen and police and other things of that sort. But when you have a vested interest, like the public service or public employee unions, having that kind of power, that sends a chill. And it may very well send a chill into other politicians who think, be they Republican or the very few Democrats, that spending at the public municipal level is become an issue, which I believe it most certainly has.
Right.
But this is big. This is very big. Now, on the other side, Ohio also voted. The citizens of Ohio did vote in another referendum to opt out of Obamacare. So it was kind of interesting. You had one what might be considered a very conservative vote, and the other one might be considered a very liberal vote. So it seems to me that at least the citizens in Ohio were opening up their eyes and ears. But there's another one that happened statewide, or not statewide, but nationally, and that is in Virginia. And in Virginia, which Obama won in the last election, there was hope that the Democrats, that they would continue to hold onto their what they call it, I don't know what they call it, but their version of the House and the Senate. Well, they got blown out. Republicans not only took control of their version of the House and the Senate, the Obama campaign had held 1,600 events in that state in the last half year alone. And Obama was in Virginia on a 3-day bus trip just last month pushing for his candidates. The Virginia Republicans added 7 new seats, giving them 2/3, which is the largest margin in history.
Wow.
They also took, the Republicans in Virginia also took over a whole bunch of counties. So lots of interesting things happening nationally. If you just caught the headlines on the news, you might view this as being a huge loss by conservative views. I'd call it kind of mixed, but those are the big ones that happened. Now, statewide, there was one that I think is huge. It's the only one real monster state issue that just happened, and. Is that music, that wonderful music that I love? Well, I got a little bit of time. When we come back, we're going to talk about what happened in the recall with Republican Representative Paul Scott of Grand Blanc. He led the House Education Committee. the MEA decided to target him, and we had a big election about him and about the power of the MEA in Michigan. We'll talk about that when we come back.
Please join Tom and Mary Imisanaki on the Polka Melodies every Saturday morning, 9 until noon, and Sunday mornings as well, 10 in the morning until noon, right here on News Talk 1090 WKBZ Muskegon, WOOD HD2 Muskegon, and online around the world, newstalk1090.com. Make every weekend Polka time.
I knew I had a problem.
I tried counting calories, eating and eating.
Nobody else could possibly understand.
We understand. We're Overeaters Anonymous, and we have helped thousands of people stop their compulsive eating and start living a healthy, rewarding life.
With OA, I am living again and loving it.
Start living the life you deserve with help from Overeaters Anonymous. Find us on the web at oa.org.
Wow, this place is so adorable. I can't believe we haven't stopped in sooner.
Yeah, it's really cute.
Betsy, look at these sweaters. 2 for $75, and they look amazing on our girls.
Maybe they would. I'm not sure if it's the right size.
Oh, come on. You know they're perfect. What's wrong?
Suzanne, I have no business being in this store. I should not be shopping. Things are really tight right now.
Tight? Are you and Michael having trouble?
We're behind on our mortgage, and Michael is really worried.
Listen, Bill and I had the same problem a few months ago, and we got some really great counseling, and it was free. I'm going to email you the information as soon as we get home.
Suzanne, you're the best.
If you even think you may be in danger of foreclosure, call the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. Certified housing counselors can help you work through your problems, and the service is free. Call the NFCC at 866-687-6322 or visit mortgagehelpnow.org. That's mortgagehelpnow.org. This has been a public service from the NFCC.
Learn more at fws.gov/refuges. That's fws.gov/refuges.
The Talk of Muskegon. News Talk 1090 WKBZ.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you
And we're back at EyeOnMuskegon. You want to hear your voice heard? Give us a call, 231-830-3109. We want you to be on the radio. This is Jim Riley and Oscar Osbo. I promised that we'd continue to talk a little bit about this election in Grand Blanc in the state of Michigan last Tuesday. Representative Paul Scott, Republican, chairs the House Education Committee, was the leader in getting some, what I would call common sense bills passed through in the House. Two of those bills that really incensed the MEA, the Michigan Education Association. One was the requirement that school systems not pay a MEA union employee to be on site, which seems kind of common sense to me. If the schools are tight, why should we be paying a union member to be doing union jobs? And the other one was required that school systems not be forced to do the accounting for the union members and collect and then distribute the union dues back to the MEA. Those are the real biggest issues that I'm aware of, but those also seem pretty common sense to me. But what happened was the MEA decided to target Paul Scott. It was a relatively, he's in a swing district, if you will, and they won last Tuesday. Now, they didn't win by much. It was by less than 2,000 votes. The union spent $140,000 of union money on the ad. You don't hear too many commentators on the news lamenting how much money was spent on that particular issue, but I'm going to lament. I think it's wrong. They're certainly allowed to do it, but they ought to be criticized for it. But it's not just the loss of one person here. Matter of fact, Mr. Scott may run again. Another Republican may run. Another Democrat may run. It really doesn't matter as far as that's concerned. But it does show the tremendous power of the MEA in the state of Michigan. And if you are an elected official who lives and breathes, which so many of them unfortunately do, but they live and breathe with getting reelected,
right,
and you see this power, are you going to bend to the threats of the big teachers union or are you going to represent your community in the way that you think is the right way to go? I think it's got the potential to change the way that we look at the reforms that the governor has said and so many of others have said that are necessary within our the school systems throughout the county, so throughout the state. So that's a biggie as far as I'm concerned. Another kind of a nasty thing, and we'll talk about this in just a moment, but this is a quote, the personal attacks against Representative Scott as we got closer to the vote were horrible. They couldn't attack the agenda, so they attacked the man, which is really true. I don't think I've ever seen in the state of Michigan ads that were as nasty as they were towards him. Now,
union, though, how do most people vote on the unions? I mean, there's so many people that love the unions, but there's so many people that don't. I mean, how do they...
Well, I think what you find is, here in Muskegon, is the same thing, that people who are employed by or have families in the school systems, and many people just say, hey, I like my teacher, and teachers in a union, and I want to keep whatever's best for them. You know, but there seems to be a disconnect between what's best for the teachers and the other employees of the school system, and the fact that we're running out of money, or actually we have run out of money, and that becomes the biggest issue. The left continues, pushed by the education unions, to put out this myth that teachers are underpaid. Matter of fact, there's a recent study that just came out that shows that people with similar credentials, et cetera, so on, with their entire benefit package, are paid about 53% more as teachers than they would get in the private sector.
Right.
And of course, that's proven by the thousands of people who sign up to be teachers. When of course, if teachers were underpaid, wouldn't they be signing up to get jobs in the private sector? So,
exactly.
Our system does work in that sense. Okay, well, let's get back to some of the other election issues, and one just a little heads up on my blog, EyeOnMuskegon.com. There's a link to the what they call the ITPP, which is the Tea Party Legislative Scorecard, which is put out by Michigan Votes, and there's a link there. But what they do, and this is of help to those of you who really want to educate yourselves. It lists the House in the state of Michigan, the House, the representatives, and the senators on how they have voted on issues. And this particular one is put up by a group that is looking for issues that are important to the Tea Party in Michigan. And the Tea Party issues primarily, and this is not universal, but primarily are relatively small government, efficient government, things like Paul Scott got recalled on, not forcing school systems to pay for union stewards in the schools, and not forcing school systems to collect union dues for the unions. And they rank these according to various issues. And one thing I liked was it said they take out unanimous and party line votes, which in many cases is worthless, and messy bills with complex competing content were also excluded, as no clear correct vote could be assigned. So in other words, someone's helping you do a little of the homework, and they boil down, these are the votes on this website. You can go to the you can click on the bill if you're so inclined, but the rating is to me the most important, and frankly it was very surprising. Locally here, our senator, the only senator that we have covering Muskegon County, Senator Jeff Hansen, who I think is a very, very fine man, but surprisingly got one of the lowest Republican votes, voting only 48% of the time in favor of bills that the Tea Party believes is important. And again, if you're a Democrat or a liberal, you can use this the other way around. Holly Hughes, as one of our state representatives, somewhat surprisingly to me, got a 73% rating. So her rating was up there.
She's everywhere, though. She is everywhere.
Well, Holly's been everywhere. Well, so has, frankly, Marcia Hovey Wright, who is the Democrat. By the way, Holly is a Republican.
Yeah.
And you're right, she is everywhere. Well,
I see her everywhere.
These poor folks, both Holly and Marcia Hovey Wright, they have 2-year terms. They essentially get to celebrate on the day after the election. And then you got to run like crazy because you've got an election coming up in less than a year, or less than 2 years. So, but Marcia Hovey Wright, as you might expect from a Democrat, being judged by Tea Party folks, got a 12% rating. So if you're a Democrat, you're going to say, oh, we love Marcia. Actually, she was one of the most liberal voting of all in the entire state, and then, of course, of all of the Democrats. So this is a neat way, if you're interested in learning a little bit more on your own, not just listening to the blathering folks on television and occasionally on radio. This is a way you can do your own homework. Okay, let's get to our local elections. And a question that I've got, which I'm going to touch on just quickly, but why do we have all these off-year and you know, the March elections and you know, the middle of the year elections? Well, the answer is simple. So that most people won't come out and vote. Now, the left says, which I believe is an absolute in-your-face lie. They say, no, this way we can give more attention to these important issues and more people will come out and vote. Well, typically, it's well less than 10% of the electorate who comes out and votes. So when we have these big year, and I would say, you know, the presidential election and then the 2 years afterwards when you elect the congressman, the U.S. Congress, those are big days. Mm-hmm. When you have elections other than that, it's purely to screw you, the taxpayer, and you, the citizen, and to benefit the special interests who want to get something, usually some money from you. So just keep that in mind. It's a scam, and I think it's disgusting, and I think it's wrong. It'll continue as long as we sit and do nothing, as Mr. Einstein had suggested. There's another scam out there that really annoys the patooties out of me, and this is whether you are whether you were for the Eggleston Fire Barn millage and spending or against it, and I think there are reasonable arguments on both sides. But what they did in Eggleston is what they do all the time. If you want to spend $2 million on X, you know, in this case, let's just say it's a fire barn. Do a millage request for $3 million that has all sorts of bells and whistles. We're probably going to see the same thing with the prison. That first millage will probably fail. Then come back and say, well, hey, we cut to the bone. We're not going for $3 million. We're going for $2 million. And it works almost every single time. Yeah. It's a scam. It's wrong. We fall for it. It reminds me that the voters, or in this case, for the most part, the non-voters, are like Charlie Brown. You know, Lucy's out there. She's holding the football. She promises she's going to hold it there, and you run up and you're getting ready to kick a field goal, and she pulls it away again. This is the business plan of the big spenders, folks. If you like it, well, then don't worry about it. Turn on the TV and then sit back and then have another cheeseburger. But if it bothers you, you do have a voice, and we'll talk about that. Hopefully, if not today, maybe next week. Okay, what does this election tell us here in Muskegon County, and what does it help us predict for 2012? Well, I'm going to go, before I answer those questions, I'm going to go to what the Chronicle said. The Chronicle is essentially, the Muskegon Chronicle, is essentially the only place for us here in Muskegon to get information about the elections. And here's one of just some verbiage from one of their articles. Then be sure to vote. Don't leave it up to a small number of people to make a decision that affects all of our futures. Now, at least they are acknowledging that a small number of people might be involved, and yet they make no mention of the fact that the reason that we have these off-year and off-quarter elections is specifically to bring out the small number. If the Chronicle really cared, they would be on a jihad to get the word out. Now, they further continue on. Quote, we look for candidates who are able to think for themselves and open to information from both sides on an issue and are knowledgeable and passionate about those issues, which sounds okay. And unfortunately, they finish up. Most of the candidates, this is on their endorsement page, most of the candidates that they endorsed, quote, will listen to the community and work to find solutions that will move this forward. So I don't have a real problem with that. Until you get to the specifics. And before we get to the specifics, we got a call, so let's take it. Caller, you're on the air. Well, no, you're not. Well, there we go. Well, we're going to try to get a little more patience in our callers. But back to the help that we're getting or not getting from the only news source, the real news source in the county, which hopefully this show will help supplement as time goes on. But Dave Alexander, who's a longtime, very well-respected columnist and reporter for the Chronicle, had also written, now he wrote this after the election, but he says, I've gotten sick and tired of our political discourse over the past few elections. With the Tea Party and now the Occupy Wall Street movements, political conversations have turned into screaming matches. And to a certain extent, I guess he's saying he doesn't like to hear screaming matches. It's interesting, though, he is writing this in Muskegon County. I've visited the Occupy Wall Street folks on quite a few occasions. I've not seen any screaming. Maybe he has. I have attended many Tea Party meetings. I've never seen any screaming. Perhaps he can provide some facts to back that up. But I have seen the essential takeover by Senator Hansen and Senator Heisinger's offices to the point where police were called by the unions in town, and the esteemed Mr. Alexander seems to have missed that. So if he's interested in courtesy and polite conversation, maybe he ought to get out of his office and take a look and see where the real nasty noise is going, and that includes the Paul Scott recall. Now, he further goes on this in his recent column here and talks about the partisan Muskegon County Board of Commissioners may sometimes, or many times, simply mouth the slogans of their parties, which absolutely bamboozles me. As you know, Oscar, I have such an exciting life. I go to every single county commission meeting. I've yet to hear any county commissioner mouth a slogan of the party, even though that they do run as it is partisan. They run as Republicans and Democrats. I've just never heard that. I don't know, making stuff up. And then he goes on to the hot rhetoric of the partisan battles. And then he goes into, and this is where I've got to speed up here, the recent Muskegon County Commission candidate gathering with our editors was so inspiring. And essentially what he's saying is that everybody got along nicely. The candidates seemed to agree, in this case, that gunplay among young people first needs to be addressed by parents at home. I mean, yeah, that's all nice and wonderful. Why not free cherry pie for everybody? Also spoke of providing meaningful activities for young people and exploring local ordinances that would control, if not the guns, then the ammunition for them, which, how's that going to work out for you? We will come back. We're going to be talking a little more about the help that we've gotten from the Muskegon Chronicle, and then we're going to go into the elections themselves, how many people voted, how there was an election out there with one vote difference, and how you can make a difference coming down the pipe. So get your phone out. Give us a call, 231-830-3109. We want you to be on the radio.
Fox News Radio, I'm Jared Halpern. An eviction deadline passed hours ago in Portland, Oregon, but Occupy protesters remain in a city park surrounded by police in riot gear.
People continue to remain standing on top of cars, just taking in this moment, waiting for something to happen. Since people began waving sticks and rods, and you could see the signs, we haven't noticed any sort of violence.
That's Caitlin Bolduc with Fox affiliate KPTV. Dozens of protesters arrested in other Occupy rallies overnight, including Oakland and Denver. Pennsylvania Governor Tom Corbett warns the child sex abuse scandal that rocked Penn State's football program could get worse.
If I'm to speculate, I wouldn't be surprised if we had more victims come forward.
So this scandal may be even bigger, sir?
There could be more victims, that's right.
The Republican governor tells Chris Wallace on Fox News Sunday he supports the decision to fire head football coach Joe Paterno. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Here's the official News Talk 1090 WKBZ forecast for today. Windy conditions, southwest winds 25 to 35, occasionally gusts over 40, and showers developing this afternoon with a high of 58. It'll still be windy tonight with southwest winds 20 to 30. Showers expected early, clearing overnight, a low of 44, and then back to cloudy skies tomorrow with a high of 53. Looking ahead to Tuesday, we'll see more clouds and sunshine and highs in the low 50s. News Talk 1090 WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon.
Hi, this is Brian Kilmeade, inviting you to listen to Kilmeade and Friends. I break down the biggest stories of the day in the news and tell you what I think. Plus, you get insight and perspective from my Fox friends like Steve Ducey, Gretchen Carlson, Brett Baer, Chris Wallace, Governor Mike Huckabee, Bill Hemmer, Martha McCallum, and people like Geraldo Rivera, only on Kilmeade and Friends.
Catch it weekday mornings from 9 till 11 on News Talk 1090 WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon. It's Gun Talk, Sunday afternoons at 3 on News Talk 1090 WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon.
dadgum government, you saw it so-and-so's. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you dadgum.
Okay, folks, I am back. This is Jim Riley at EyeOnMuskegon discussing the most recent election results, how they may affect our future. Didn't mean to really jump all over Dave Alexander there, but I don't necessarily think that everybody getting along is really what we want. We want people who are going to come up with really legitimate questions and legitimate answers. And I'm going to come up with some suggestions that the Chronicle might do, and I'm going to be posing to candidates as we get on down the road, and I would hope that you would consider the same thing. What are the top 3 problems facing your district? Let's just say that you're a school board member. When I looked at all of the recommendations, all of the folks who were endorsed by the Chronicle for school boards, not once did budgetary matters come up. Wasn't even mentioned. Seems to me that if you want to run for an office, the question ought to be, what are the top 3 problems facing your district? Another question might be, is it possible to fix those at a local level? So many of these grandiose ideas that we're hearing from the local candidates are, we need to put a convention center downtown Muskegon. We need to put a who knows what, a factory where the Sappy site is. Well, that's all well and good. Where's the money going to come from? Is this going to be one of these, we're going to hire, the first thing we must do is hire a new grant writer? Or is this something that can be done on a local level?
Now, where do these grant writers come and these consultants? Where do they come from? How do they get their?
Well, that's a really great question.
I've never heard. Okay, we hired a consultant. So where did this consultant get their knowledge to make?
It may be it's a chicken and the egg there. If communities and certainly businesses do this to a certain extent, but county commission and local municipalities have money to spend, and they say we need a consultant so that they can make the tough decisions that we refuse to make.
Right.
So the consultants come out of nowhere. In many cases, maybe they were hatched from an egg. Much of the consultancy that I have seen has not brought a significantly added value.
I agree.
Now, am I correct? Is there somebody on the line? Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to give it one more time. We'll keep trying, folks.
Hello.
Caller, go ahead.
All right. First off, I want to inform everybody that on Thursday, the 17th of November at 3:30 is going to be a county commissioners meeting, and it's on the 4th floor of the county building, right across from the elevator, and that's a transportation committee meeting, and all issues regarding public transportation, I imagine, will be discussed, and unless we go and then they decide, at the last moment to change their mind, which happened one time to me, one thing that's very high on the agenda, of course, is our paratransit, which is not set up for a shared ride system, and that needs to be discussed as well. What they do is pick up one person at a time and drop them off instead of picking up multiple people, because you take the GO bus, they're only getting on one of the buses, which operates from 7 in the morning to 10 in the evening, approximately 20 people on that particular GO bus, and you got I believe 2 GO buses, then a car, because 2 GO buses, one of them ran over a mattress over a year ago.
Okay, well, caller, that's great stuff. I appreciate it. I'm going to come back. Hopefully I'll have enough time to talk about this transportation committee next week. So thank you for calling. We've got another call online. Go ahead, caller.
Hi, this is Lou from Norton Shores.
Well, hello, Lou. Go ahead.
Hi. First, I'd like to thank you for your show. I've caught all but one of them.
Send money, Lou.
And it's really been it's really been informative.
Thank you.
I thought I was keeping up with current events, but it turns out my focus was national, and I was clueless in terms of things that are going on the state, county, and local level.
Well,
I'd just like to thank you.
You're not alone, and that's what we're trying to do. We only have an hour, and we are trying to do what we can do here, which is quite limited because of time. We're trying to prod the Chronicle into doing what they used to do, which is investigative journalism, and journalism from both sides. The Chronicle tends to think, at least from my reading of it, is that if the person running for office doesn't have grandiose ideas that involve spending somebody else's money, that they're really not worthy of endorsement or supporting. And there's another way to balance the budget, which is the way that just about everybody, probably at the Chronicle too, does, which is you balance your spending along with your revenue.
Right. Well, that gets to my next question. The problem, the financial problem, is just ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's not just here in our county, where the people are no worse or better worse than you'll find anywhere else.
Well, the word ubiquitous is ubiquitous.
Yes, that's right.
Moving right along.
But there's no enemy. The county employees, state employees, so forth, they're our friends and neighbors. The just trying to get through life the best way they can. The problem is mismanagement. The people who handle things like union contracts just do a very bad job.
Well, that's exactly the point. And the reason that many of us can't get all excited about it is because we're not aware of it. When I've mentioned that one of the more recent union contracts brought the paid days off, fully paid days off for some of the union employees to 58 days a year. Now, that's almost 3 months' worth of pay for doing no work. And that, of course, includes getting the full health care, the full vision, the full dental, and, of course, the Cadillac retirement benefits. People are shocked. So our hope is to get the word out, and as I say, my hope really is to get the Chronicle to help us in that mission, and people like you.
Okay, well, I've got perhaps a difficult question. What can we do? What can an average voter like me do? I mean, the problem just seems so enormous.
Okay, great question. Boy, it's even on one of my questions to ask myself. I'll jump into it. A little experience happened to me a few months back. This was actually Honey Bunch, who had a problem down the road. Some new people had moved into the neighborhood. They were parking their cars crosswise in their front yard. You can imagine what that does to local property values and what it does to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And she gave me a call and said, "What should I do?" And I said, "Well, what you need to do is call your city commissioner." She said, "Well, I don't know who that is, and they have wards and all this kind of thing." The wards is another thing I ought to attack sometime down the road. But we found out who her ward committee man was, like our county or city commissioner was. Gave him a call, and 2 days later, the cars were gone and have yet to be replaced. She was empowered. She looked at me and she said, I feel like a community organizer, which in fact she was. She did a tremendously great deed for her little community there. And all it took was a phone call. So your question is, what can we do?
Yeah.
Make a phone call. You can write letters, you can write emails, but making a phone call, now in her case she wanted something done. You may make a phone call and say you don't want something done. If you don't know enough about it to make a phone call, I think the one I would ask, because the real overriding Titanic and the iceberg problem that faces us all is that we're going broke, is to call your county commissioner, your city people, your township, call your school board people and say, look, everything I'm hearing about is that we're broke. We need more money. You keep talking about we need more revenue. Can you explain that to me? I think the first thing you're going to find, which is I've been finding very sadly, is that the responses are going to be just awful. The responses are going to be of people who really haven't got a clue. And I'll give you just another little anecdote. I went to our state representative, Marcia Hovey-Wright, had a what you would call a town hall locally, and it was coincidental at the same time our state representative was having the state representative, the Republican Jeff Hansen, having a town hall at another part of the county. And when I walked up to Representative Marcia Hovey-Wright, she was the only one there, and we chatted a little bit. She's a very nice gal. And I said, geez, there's nobody here. It's at Carmen's Cafe, and it was well publicized. And she said, well, all my people are over at Hansen's town hall because they wanted to influence Hansen to get something done. Made perfect sense. Now, she had nobody asking her to get anything done because, for the most part, if you look at her voting record, which was almost 100% on the liberal side, those folks were happy. But there was nobody, with the exception of poor old retired me, who was at her town hall. And in our conversation, she said, you're the first person, you're the only person who's ever showed up at any of my town halls who is not a supporter. And really that shocked me, and we had a very long, extended conversation. I'll talk about that maybe some other time. But what can you do? As long as they know you're not looking, they're going to do what the people who whisper in their ears or shout in their ears will want them to do. And frankly, I almost can't blame them. If the people like you or me or the rest of us who are complaining endlessly about the bills going up and the electric's going up and the property taxes are going up and the fire barn, I didn't like that fire barn. If you're not voting, which less than 10% of the county did this last week, or if you're not picking up the phone, and this is what I would recommend to everybody. You can go to my blog and you can get links, but you can Google this stuff, and you can even give me a call. My number is to call me at home. It is 231-421-4409, or you can go to my EyeOnMuskegon.com blog, or you can even email me at EyeOnMuskegon@gmail.com. But what you need to do is to have the name and the phone number of Jeff Hansen, your state rep, be it Hovey Wright or Holly Hughes, your county commissioner, and your city or your township people, and at least one person on your school board, and give them a call at least once a month.
Okay.
Because
thank you very much.
as long as, well, you're certainly welcome. Thanks for calling. But as long as we are going to be silent, and it just shocked me. There's been a lot of talk about these Occupy Wall Street folks, and I went out and visited them for the second time this past week. And it's really, I think it's worth the trip. They've got a whole big bunch of tents out there. They seem quite committed. It was a little scary when I got there because a bunch of them had these, I don't know what you call it, but something to cover half their face, sort of like, the terrorists wear, some kind of a masky kind of a thing. Yeah. But they were very cordial and nice, and I talked to a lot of folks. I may disagree with their goals. Here in Muskegon, it seems to me that they have better sense of what they're there for than what I'm reading about, on the national media. But what they are doing is what the conservatives and the taxpayers in Muskegon County are not doing. They're doing something. They are out. They're making noise. They're getting attention. Now, it may not be the best way. I'm not sure if they're going to succeed in whatever their goals may be. But they're doing something. The Democrats, for their credit, many of them are MEA. I know that the MEA is a big supporter of Marcia Hovey Wright. But they're out going to meetings. They're making some noise. They're whispering in their ear. They're doing exactly what Dave Alexander suggests that we shouldn't do. They're demanding to be heard, and they're demanding that their opinions be heard. Well, if the rest of us are not going to do that, we're going to get what we deserve. And it doesn't require that you go sit out in a tent in the cold, and it doesn't require that you go to county commission meetings and other meetings. It would be good if you did. And as I said, with the contact information that you can get on my blog, you can get in touch with me, and I'm happy to talk with you about how to go, what to say, and in some cases I'll even go along with you. Not surprisingly, we are running towards the end of the hour. I do want to touch base. Next week, by the way, we're going to continue conversation about real politics, about the things that happened last week and are coming forward. But the earlier caller mentioned something about the county commission having a transportation meeting, and I thank him for that. That is next Thursday at the county building, and he told me some things I hadn't heard of before, which I'd maybe like to focus on transportation again. We did the bus transportation thing a few weeks ago, but there's two other meetings this week. One is which is on Tuesday. These are county meetings where the Ways and Means Committee will be meeting, and the one thing that caught my attention was something called pending litigation. So that might be interesting to find out. What is the pending litigation? Seems like you ought to be able to call your county commissioner and ask about it. But there's another one that, frankly, this bothers me, and it bothers me a lot. There is a committee called the Community Development Strategic Planning Committee. And under the auspices of this committee, I'll just read quickly. Capital and Public Improvements, County Real Estate, Economic Development Corporation, Fairgrounds, Heritage Landing, Park Development, Parks, Special Products, Tourism, West Michigan Shoreline Regional Development Commission, and Convention Center. This is a committee that can really do a lot. And this is headed by Norton Shores County Commissioner Bob Skolnick, a fantastic guy, an absolutely tremendous music promoter. But last month's Community Development Strategic Planning Committee that he chairs was canceled. This week's, which is Tuesday, there is as of yet no agenda. And I imagine if perhaps he will get jolted because we're talking about him on air. But if you look at what this committee could do, it might very well be the single most important committee in the county. And if you look and see what has been done with that committee, or, well, frankly, what has not been done with it, it really ought to make you pause and say, you know, I'm going to give this guy a call and say, what have you done there? Why should I have you back? And we're going to go over all the rest of these committees over this next year because, frankly, what we have are people who say, vote for me, I care about you. I've got the lovely postcard I send, 50 of those during election time with, my lovely wife and my great-looking dog and my perfect, true green lawn. And then once you vote him in, they kind of disappear. In this case, Bob's turned into a promoter, a wonderful promoter, wonderful guy.
He's on Facebook. He promotes all the time.
And he's on Facebook. Yeah. But he hasn't been doing doo-doo on the Community Development Strategic Planning Committee that he's the chairman of. And there's nothing wrong with not doing anything with it. Just give it to somebody else. But the old, I'm not a biblical guy, but the dog in the manger thing just annoys the patooties out of me. So let's see. As always, I'm going to be at Carmen's Tuesdays and Thursdays. I get at Carmen's at 2 o'clock to 3:15. And again, we talk about local politics. If you're interested in the county stuff, if you're interested in local and regional or local and township school board things, we talk about that. Certainly, stop in and say hi. Sometimes I'm alone. It gets lonely when you're an old retired guy and nobody will talk to you. Except the people at Carmen's are tremendous. By the way, they've got excellent Wi-Fi there. Okay, next Sunday, November 20th, as far as local politics is concerned, the future is now. We got a presidential primary in Michigan coming in February, and maybe a few recalls, and another primary in August. Are all politicians the same? Well, apparently not. Can we do anything now that will let our voices have real power for change? Next week, November 20th, we'll get out the crystal ball, and we're going to talk about politics in 2012, and also we're going to recap some of the things today. That's on EyeOnMuskegon next Sunday, November 20th. Stay tuned for Tom Sinaki's Polka Melodies. I hope you all have a great week in our little piece of heaven, folks. Next week, we'll put the eye on you, Muskegon.
Oh, don't you love me sometime?
Listen to the Tom Hartman program Monday through Friday on News Talk 1090 WKBZ.
Coming up next on the Tom Hartman program, join us where progressives come to party. We'll get you up to date on everything going on in the world that you need to know. Updates on the economy and the budget, the environment, health care, a whole pile of topics, plus what the wacky Republicans and conservatives are up to now. And the rest of the news and your calls right here on your media support group for We the People, the Tom Hartman program.
Catch it weekdays at noon on News Talk 1090 WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon.
America had just gone to war when Felipe Adams volunteered. I took a bullet to the side and left me paralyzed. For Armando de la Rosa, the Navy was a chance to serve and see the world.
I got medically discharged in 2001.
For injured veterans like Felipe Adams, there are veterans like Armando de la Rosa ready to help.
Our training is to better the veteran.
Paralyzed Veterans of America, changing lives, building futures. Visit PVA.org.
Sunday morning. It's Sunday, November 13th, 2011. I'm Tom Sinaki with the Polka Melodies right here on the Talk of Muskegon. News Talk 1090 WKBZ Muskegon. We welcome you to our Polka Melody show. It's 10 o'clock already this morning, all the way until noon today. 2 hours of the best time with the Polka Melodies. Hey, turn up the volume. Involve the younger.
Hello, hello.